What do you do when you get bad plastic surgery? Apparently, more plastic surgery. These are the top 10 celebrities who failed to reverse their plastic surgery. Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis, the Scream Queen, once spilled the beans about her plastic surgeries she did in this interview where she was frankly super honest about it. Turns out she went through a whole bunch of procedures like liposuction and Botox, but she said straight up that none of it really worked out the way she'd hoped. Even though her face didn't change drastically, you can definitely tell she's had some work done if you look closely. But despite all of that, apparently she's totally cool with aging naturally. At her age, she's still rocking it and keeping her status as the Scream Queen intact. Quite refreshing to see a celeb being real about this stuff. Jamie Lee Curtis teaches us that even with all the money and access to all these fancy procedures, things don't always turn out as planned. But at least she's still confident and embracing herself, and at the end of the day, I suppose that's what really matters. Coming up next is Blac Chyna, also known as Angela White, made some pretty big moves. She decided to undo a bunch of the plastic surgery stuff she had done before. See, she wasn't really feeling the way she looked anymore, so she got rid of all those fillers and stuff she had put in her face. Originally, she changed a lot about her face. Her cheeks, her chin, her nose, her lips, I mean, you name it. But as time went on, she started feeling like she was looking a bit plastic, I guess. Then she came clean about it, saying that she felt a bit out there and not like herself anymore. She even told her fans that going under the blade for cosmetic reasons definitely wasn't worth it. She started going back to being called Angela, her birth name, and trying to get back to her original self. She admitted that the look wasn't great and it really didn't represent who she was. Undoing all that surgery took time, but now she's on the path to getting back to her natural looking self. If you're enjoying the video so far, you could support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Beyond the Screen, and ringing that notification bell. Coming up next is Michael Jackson, who is definitely the most well-known name on this list. And seeing that he made a very drastic change, he spent 30 years trying to look exactly like who he wanted to be. He had over 100 facial procedures done, mostly because one of his previous doctors had totally botched his face. He had multiple nose jobs, his skin bleached, lip fixtures, and cheek enhancements. There were a few different reasons why he made the changes, one being that he wanted to resemble Diana Ross, and another reason being that he wanted to remove any sort of resemblance to his father, whom he had a deep-seated hatred for. When he started out in music, he had acne scars and felt like his nose was too big, so a few years later, he got the scarring removed and had his nose fixed up so he felt a little bit better about himself. Over the years, he got his nose done numerous amount of times, totally got rid of his natural afro, made his cheekbones higher, his lips thinner, bleached his skin, and his eyelids raised. Overall, at the end of the day, I don't think it was really worth it, as he never really reached his ideal look. Next up, you won't believe it, but Courtney Cox spilled the beans about her experience with facial fillers. Yeah, she totally went for them, hoping to keep that youthful look going strong, but it did not turn out as planned. She was really hoping to dodge that aging bullet like most of us would, I guess. But instead of getting the results she wanted, it ended up being a complete and total regret for her. So what did she do? Well, she made the bold move to dissolve all those fillers. She just wanted to feel more like her old self and go for the natural look again. Plus, she mentioned something pretty interesting. She didn't like that the fillers messed with her facial movements. Imagine not being able to move your face properly because of all that stuff you got crammed in there. Yeah, no thanks. Next up, Kim Kardashian's journey with plastic surgery was quite the roller coaster. She's been on a transformation spree, starting with her famous back end implants that were practically a shelf for a champagne bottle. Cheeks, yeah, she filled those up with some enhancers. She tinkered with her nose a whole bunch of times. And plus she went for a whole bunch of other body tweaks. But the kicker is that she's big on a skin enhancer thing that's all about filling and smoothing, making sure she's always picture perfect without a single blemish. Throw in those regular spray tans for that eternal sun-kissed look. And her contouring game used to be her thing, but enhancing those facial features like an artist, but more recently, she did a switcheroo by letting go of her Brazilian lift that she had going on, but apparently there was no surgery to undo that. She just went for the slow and steady weight loss route, letting things naturally settle back to normal. Next up is Kenny Rogers. So Kenny Rogers was aging so gracefully, he almost had this Santa Claus look going on, but you know, with the sweet features and that white beard. But then he messed all that up, deciding to tweak his cheekbones, went overboard on his eyelids, got a nose job, and ended up with this super fake tan. The result being, well, just say he didn't quite look like the Kenny Rogers we all knew and loved. I mean, some say he even resembled a, Walmart version of himself, like a bad taxidermy job gone wrong. It's kind of sad, but also a little bit funny. May he rest in peace, though. Despite all that, he left behind a legacy through his music that will always be remembered. Next up, Burt Reynolds. Yeah, remember him? He wasn't your typical Hollywood heartthrob, especially when he was younger. But hey, he aged pretty darn well, all things considered. However, as he got older, he decided to go through the surgery route to maintain his middle-aged charm. Problem was, it did not pan out. Instead of enhancing his look, it totally backfired. He ended up looking more like a fragile grandpa than ever before. He used to credit his smooth skin to his pops, but as time went on, he got fewer wrinkles when he was middle-aged. He went all in with surgeries, getting a nose job, eye lifts, oodles of all kinds of Botox, and even a full facelift. Some say his face seems like it's being held together by those surgeries because it looks so tight and stretched. Now it seems like Burt might have missed the memo about embracing the natural look, but aging gracefully isn't everyone's cup of tea, I suppose. Next up is Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers, you know, she never truly was content with how she looked. Her daughter spilled the beans in a memoir mentioning that Joan went through 348 surgeries and a whopping 700 plus facial tweaks. Could you imagine? All that to chase a dream look that just kept slipping away. She'd crack jokes about celebs in her stand-ups, but she'd also throw shade at herself, which has been sad in hindsight. In 2014, during a routine throat procedure, things took a bad turn. It wasn't because she wanted more surgery, no, medical injuries snagged her life when her brain didn't get enough oxygen during that procedure. Which is super wild considering the fortune she poured into her looks. But hey, teaches us something important, that no amount of surgery can fix how you feel on the inside. Next up is Donatella Versace. Back in the day, she had these naturally full lips and a smooth skin that were envied by many. Now fast forward, and her recent appearance makes heads turn, not in a good way. Doctors took a closer look at her recent pics and spotted some telltale signs. That extra shiny skin's probably too much Botox and laser treatments trying to make things smoother. And that's not all. They suspect some bone loss in her lower jaw, hinting at possible jaw implants. Versace is a classic cautionary tale about the risks of going too far with plastic surgery. Sometimes aiming for a better look can end up making things worse. So while celebs may have all the resources for surgeries, we can't always reverse these changes. And coming up last on our list is Betty White, the amazing lady we all adore. She did something quite unexpected, getting her eyelids lifted. Now, she was all about embracing natural beauty, saying that we're all born unique and beautiful in our own way. But then she went for this eyelid lift. Now, at first, she wasn't too sure about it, scolding herself for years about it afterwards. But as she grew older, she kind of made peace with it. She realized it didn't totally mess up her lovable face or her charm. Betty always said that everybody's got their own special kind of beauty, but sometimes even the best need a little boost, I guess. And hey, it didn't change the fact that she was still the same witty, wonderful person we all knew and loved. So yeah, even someone as awesome as Betty White can try something new and still get away with it. As always, if there's a plastic surgery that tried to be undone that you think I've missed, feel free to let me know down in the comments. I've been AJ with Beyond the Screen, and I'll catch you all in another video. Later.